Welcome to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two very old friends who are going to talk about murder and everything else. And I would like to murder the technology industry. Have you noticed that when you buy something that has a cord now, that the part that you plug in to charge is now all like a USB thing for the computer? Like
Oh, yeah,
you,
that's been happening for a while, Cheryl.
I hate it. I just want a regular prong
And
plug-in.
also, there's no more jack in your cell phone for a plug-in headphone.
Listen, because you know what the problem is with those USB things? What do you need? If you can't have everything plugged into your computer. There's
Yeah,
only a couple you need.
buy a little USB
Yes, exactly. Buy.
that
That's another
has
word.
like 3 to 6 USB ports, and you plug it into the USB port in your computer, and it's like an extension cord.
Okay, well, I'm just here to gripe. I think I'm gonna start a new section of our
And
podcast
those
or
darn kids need to
episode.
get off the lawn.
I'm gonna oh, did you hear about that woman shot her neighbor? Or
What?
shot her neighbor? Oh, I was
Why?
listening to an
Because your
episode
kids were on the lawn?
yeah, so there's this lady who and her trial just happened and she was found guilty of manslaughter, although a lot of people are like should have been murder. But she had a beef with the neighbor. So it's a white woman, old white woman, and then a young black woman with her four kids, I think. And in between their houses was this empty lot that didn't belong to anyone. Certainly didn't belong to the white woman. But she was pissed off when the kids would play. They were playing in the daytime, wasn't at 3 o'clock in the morning, and all this stuff. Anyway, it escalated to where the black woman was knocking on her door or banging. There's different, probably different accounts. And the white woman shot her through the door.
Whoa.
Shot
That's
her
crazy.
through the door. She pulled an Oscar Pistorius and
Whoa.
shot her through the door, and she died.
Golden
And
Oscar Pistorius. I can't
I
believe
was
you said that.
I was going to
So
send it
dead.
to you at the end. The grandfather is telling the kids, your mom is not coming back, and they start bawling. And if you aren't crying when you watch this or listen to it, you have a heart of stone. I was crying. It was so sad, but it's incredible how these feuding neighbors can escalate to murder. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's very similar to like road rage. I think what it is it's people who don't have their emotions in check. So
Yeah.
they just start to rage. You
Oof.
know?
Yeah. She
It's kind
needed
of
to.
scary.
It's very scary. She was knocking on her door so she could talk. She was just sick of this woman harassing her, and the woman shot through the door
That's
and said
crazy.
she was scared. And it's like, well, your door was locked. There was no way she was going to get in. I don't know what you're scared about, but yeah.
Right.
And she died.
Wow.
Anywho,
Well,
pretty
on
bad.
that note, I think, wow, we need a real pick me up, don't we, Cheryl?
Hey, I bring in
And
the murder and mayhem. Remember,
I
that's my
am
job.
here to bring in the pick me up, okay?
Okay, you
And
go. You go.
so I just have to say that Cheryl and I have both been on vacation. So we had, for our regular listeners, we had to scramble around and record quite a few episodes in advance, edit them, produce them, get them all ready, set them up so they get released on the appropriate Sundays. Because, as for those of you who listen, you know that our new episodes drop Sunday morning at like 9:30 Eastern Standard Time or 8:30 Eastern Standard. I don't know, sometime 30 Eastern Standard Time. Anyway, so we are giddy because we have not sat down to do this for quite a few weeks. Not only that, there was a lot that happened. And one of the things that happened, for those of you who've listened regularly, is back on July 28th, we did what we called the Olympics interview with Coach Sean Wilborn. He's the head women's track and field coach at Duke University. And he talked about his bid for the Olympics and what that process was like. He shouted out the Olympians that were from Duke that were heading over to Paris, France. Anyway, so then the Olympics happened, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I just want to bring up this French pole vaulter, Anthony Ammirati, and how his Olympic dream ended because the 21-year-old missed his target height and then his junk hit the crossbar, sending it crashing down to the mat. And he ultimately placed 15th in the contest.
Oh.
And his statement was, "It's a big disappointment." But I have to say, first of all, I was super disappointed that we'd already interviewed Sean because I definitely would have asked him because remember he said that pole vaulting was um
Right.
his favorite event. And
Uh-huh.
I would want to ask him if that ever happened to him when he was learning how to pole vault because I'm sure there's a learning curve there. But also, I find it a little bit interesting that he said it was a big disappointment because if you watch the video clip, which has like been on loop, it does look like a big disappointment. And that's all.
I have not seen it. Was he injured? Did the paramedics have to come out? And...
No, no, it's just stuff got in the way and it was the stuff was his junk.
Oh, you mean,
And
oh, if that wasn't there, he would have cleared it?
yeah, but it wasn't, but it was like big junk. I mean,
Then he
what
must
is
have been
all
really
that?
proud after
No, because
he
he
won.
finished 15th.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
for a guy, that's a pretty good reason to like, have some bragging rights.
I got it
If
right.
it wasn't for the size of my junk, I would have had a gold medal.
Exactly. And then the other thing I just have to say is the average age of our listener, guys, is 45 to 59. So there is a very good, and female. 86.5% of our listeners are female. So there's a very good chance that there are some people out there who have not heard about this. So if you haven't, you need to head on over to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, uh, Twitter. I mean, you pick your poison. It's out there. Okay. Anyway, Cheryl, do you have any updates?
I do have an update. I was listening to our Alec Baldwin case dismissed episode, and there's a chunk where I am talking about the defense attorney, and I keep calling him the DA. So I apologize for that if you guys were confused because I was mortified when I heard that. And I guess it's because defense attorney, the letters are DA as well as district attorney. So I kept saying DA and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, Cheryl, that is so confusing. Anyway, that's my
Well,
update and I
at least
apologize.
you didn't say rooters. Uh,
Thank you for reminding
heading
me about that.
heading on into shout outs. I just want to make a shout out to family and friends. Like I said, Cheryl and I came off of a each came off a summer trip. For my family, we headed out west to put our arms around the people that we love and squeeze them tight. And it was fun and wonderful and marvelous and glorious. So, a huge shout out to family. And also, I just have to say, and we're going to do an episode next week on our trips, but a shout out to flight attendants. I'm going to talk about this later, but there was a medical emergency on one of our flights, and it was not me. But those flight attendants, Cheryl, I got to say, first of all, everybody knows they have to deal with some really, really uptight and exhausted and screaming children and rude patrons and people who are struggling with like everything that's going on in their lives, including me. But then on top of it, they have to deal with emergencies. And there was an elderly man who was struggling. And with everything that goes on a plane, these flight attendants, I mean, like I said, I'll talk about it next week, but they handled everything, and they also know how to handle certain like medical crisis, and everything got sorted out. I don't know if it got sorted out for this man, but I do know it got sorted out for all the rest of the people on the plane, including myself and one of my kids. So, shout out to flight attendants, guys. You guys work hard, and a lot of the work that you do is thankless, and people treat them like they are bartenders and like
Servers.
basically waiters or servers.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate because I got to see firsthand like the amount of
Responsibility.
yeah, and the shit they know how to do. Like they
Hmm.
don't just pull that yellow thing and put it around your head and then put your kids on. They also know how to put on oxygen masks and, get out the first aid kit and fuck around with that. So anyway, thank you,
Yeah.
flight attendants. How about you,
Thank you,
Cheryl?
flight attendants. No, I just want to piggyback on that. I do think, and this was no like criticism or you know, I wasn't disparaging servers, but it is unfortunate that they are just treated like servers in the sky. And what I mean by that is, like you said, they have a lot of other responsibilities, and I don't think they are respected enough. Not by everybody. Some people do, like us. We respect them. But anyway, yeah, that's cool. Well, can't wait to hear more about it next week. My shout out is my friend Sandy. Hey, Sandy, if you're listening, love you. But she sent me a text for my birthday, and she said, um, by the way, it was my birthday. Uh, that's why I
Happy
went to California.
birthday!
So, um, she sent me a text and she said, she wished me happy birthday, and she goes, I pop into your podcast now and then to hear your sweet voice. I don't know how true that part is, but I thought that was very sweet. So,
Maybe
Sandy,
she
if
meant she pops in to hear my sweet voice.
this is true, she could have. It
Ah.
could be you. But
Okay,
yeah, so that
Sandy,
was
if you're popping in to hear my sweet voice, I'm thankful to you as well.
great. Yeah.
Well, rolling on to letters from our listeners, I got a lot of texts. Like I said, we recorded weeks ago. We took a break and put everything on autopilot. So I have received a bunch of texts, a lot of text conversations, a lot of calls with different friends and friends of the show and listeners. I just want you guys to know that we're super thankful that you reach out to us. And I am not going to read any of those today because I choose not to. But I also am going to use this time to tell you that for the first, maybe second time ever, I think this started like a week and a half ago. Spotify has dropped to less than 50% of where our listening audience comes from. And that is so crazy because Spotify used to be like, what, 96%. Spotify listeners now make up 48.4%. We're also getting people from Apple Podcasts, from audible.com, from web browsers like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We're also getting listeners from Amazon Music and from YouTube. So, thank you to everybody who's out there clicking on listen and giving us a chance. I know it sounds crazy, but this episode is number 84. So, we are getting close to hitting 100 episodes.
Wow. We're going to have to do something
Special.
special.
I'm going to get some pants with Velcro on the side and rip them off. That's what we're going
And
to do.
and we're going to just listen to the Velcro ripping.
Yeah. No, we're gonna put music on and then we'll have some noise makers. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll get tassels or something. Anyway, listeners out there, oh yeah, Francois told me that I say anyway a lot. So I'm gonna stop saying anyway right now. In
So
other news,
anyway,
In other news, guess what? All you murder fans, we are headed right back to Murder Central with Cheryl, the murder specialist.
Cheryl, the murder queen. Um,
Mhm.
so you said you have not heard of Elisa Lam. Is that right?
That's correct.
So for people that are into true crime, this will be very familiar to a lot of people, because there was a video that went around of her, and people were speculating, and all these rumors went around. So we're going to be talking about the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. My sources are allthat'sinteresting.com, Men's Health, Business Insider, Women's Health, Grunge.com, and Snopes.com. Is that right? I need you to correct me
Ah,
now and not to.
Snopes. You know, Snopes is a fact checking website.
Oh, okay. Well, very
Yeah.
good then. So to this day, nobody knows exactly how Elisa Lam died. We know that the 21-year-old Canadian college student was last seen in the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles on January 31, 2013. Have you heard of the Cecil Hotel? It's a very
No.
famous hotel. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about it. But the
Oh,
infamously
wait, is
chilling.
that the girl that was seen in the elevator?
Yes, this is the elevator. See, everybody knows her as
Oh.
the elevator one. Yes, yes, that video
Mm.
went viral. The infamously chilling hotel surveillance video that captured the bizarre final moments before her disappearance, let alone the other details that have emerged since, have only elicited more questions than answers. In reference to the mysterious death of Elisa Lam, NBC LA reporter Lolita Lopez writes, in 22 years plus of doing this job as a news reporter, this is one of those cases that kind of sticks with me because we know the who, what, when, where, but the why is always the question. Although the coroner's office ruled her death as an accidental drowning, the strange details of Elisa Lam's case have fueled rampant speculation about what may have really happened. Internet sleuths have come up with a myriad of theories about the tragedy involving everything from murder conspiracies to evil spirits. But when it comes to the disturbing death of Elisa Lam, where does the truth lie? And besides murder and mayhem, you know that I love spooky shit, right? You know I
Yeah.
love paranormal stuff. So her case,
Uh,
not that I want to look at her case as entertainment, not by any means, but it did have the, the essence of murder and paranormal and all of that. In the end, there is an explanation for it, which we'll get to. But until it was investigated and the truth came out, it was very juicy stuff for people who believed in the paranormal. So let's talk about Elisa Lam and how she ended up at the Cecil Hotel. So on January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles. She had just come by Amtrak train from San Diego and was headed to Santa Cruz as part of her solo trip around the West Coast. This is something that Joy would do. Um, the trip was supposed to be a getaway from her studies at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, where she was originally from. On January 28, 2013, Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Her stay was to last 3 nights. Her family had been wary of her traveling by herself, but the young student was determined to go at it alone. As a compromise, Lam made sure to check in with her parents every day of the trip to let them know that she was safe. That's why
well,
it
that's
struck her.
nice and responsible of her.
It is, except that it struck her parents unusual when they didn't hear from her on January 31st, the day she was scheduled to check out of the Cecil Hotel. The Lambs eventually contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. The police searched the premises of the Cecil Hotel but couldn't find her. Elisa had left her belongings behind at the hotel, including her laptop and clothing. There were no
Okay,
signs of forced entry.
let me ask you this. Had
Yeah,
she left her laptop and clothing like at the front desk packed up, or was it just like spread around the room?
it was in her room.
Okay.
It was, yeah. There were no signs of forced entry into her room nor any drug-related paraphernalia. Police soon realized surveillance footage taken from the cameras at the Cecil Hotel on their website. This is where things took a turn into the truly bizarre. The hotel, and this is the part, have you seen the video?
No, because that kind of stuff makes me so scared that every time that video would pop up, I would quickly click on something like, the guy who falls down at the beach and his pants fall off.
You treat it like when I'm watching YouTube, there's a fucking pest control commercial that comes up. They have two of them. One is with a mouse, and I don't mind that. But the other is with a roach. And every time it comes up, I have to fast forward or I cover my hands over the screen. This is how much I cannot stand them. Okay.
Well, that's
anyway,
how much I can't stand that Elisa Lam video.
It's scary. It is it's very troubling. The video shows Elisa in one of its elevators on the date of her disappearance acting rather strangely. In the pixelated footage, Lam can be seen stepping into the elevator and pushing all the floor buttons. She steps in and out of the elevator, poking her head out sideways towards the hotel's hallways. She peers out of the elevator another few times before stepping out of the elevator entirely. The last minutes of the video show Elisa standing by the left side of the door, moving her hands in random gestures. Nobody else was captured on the video except Elisa. Her behavior in the infamous video has led to theories that she played the elevator game. This game has origins in Asia and is a ritual that can purportedly transport you into a new dimension by pressing elevator buttons in a specific sequence. So that theory was rampant on the internet, that she was playing this game, which I had never heard of. Have you? That you can press the buttons in a specific sequence. So people were like slowing the video down to see which buttons, because she was pressing a whole bunch of buttons on the panel. And so they're like slowing it down to try to see what buttons she's pressing in what sequence and all of that. So there were all these theories out there.
I mean, she also could have just been pressing all of the different buttons just because maybe she wants to see where the elevator's what it's gonna do. I've done that before when I was just messing around. You get in and there's like 70 floors and you're like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit every floor and see if it stops at every floor.
You know what I would love is video footage of you when you weren't expecting it. Just on your travels and just random things that you did would be so entertaining.
Oh, so entertaining. Hours and hours of just like mind-numbing moronic like behavior.
So public reaction to the inexplicable video crossed all the way to Canada and China, where Lam's family is originally from. The 4-minute video of Lam's strange elevator episode has amassed tens of millions of views. On February 19, 2 weeks after the video was published by authorities, maintenance worker Santiago Lopez found Elisa Lam's body, found her dead body floating face up in one of the hotel water tanks. Did you know this part?
No.
Oh, okay. Lopez had made the discovery after responding to, listen, this part is really disturbing. So this employee made the discovery of her body after responding to complaints from hotel patrons about low water pressure and a weird taste coming from the tap water.
Right.
Guests had been brushing their...
Never going on vacation again.
If the mattress doesn't gross you out, now the water will. Guests brushed their teeth, bathed, and drank water from it for as long as 19 days. According to a statement by the chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department, the tank in which Elisa's body was found had to be drained completely and then cut open from the side to remove her 5'4" frame. Nobody knows how Elisa's corpse, floating lifelessly next to the same clothes she wore in the surveillance video, ended up in the hotel's water tank, or who else might have been involved. Hotel staff told authorities that Elisa was always seen by herself around the hotel premises. And this is why there's all this talk, and the way she was acting in the elevator. This is why all the paranormal theories came out. Um, but at least one person did see Elisa soon before her death at a nearby shop, eerily named the Last Bookstore. Owner Katie Orphan was among the last to see Elisa Lam alive. Orphan remembered the college student buying books and music for her family back in Vancouver. There are a few theories, including suicide or something supernatural, or a copycat murder theory. Now, I have watched this movie many times because I told you I like dark stuff. I like scary paranormal stuff. And there's a 2005 movie called Dark Water. You guys write in if you've seen this. It stars Jennifer Connelly. It's really well done. It's about people at an apartment complex where the main characters live. They complain that the drinking water is dark and tastes off, and that leads to the discovery of a girl's body in a water tank on the roof. So this movie came out before her death. So there were theories that it was a copycat murder.
Interesting.
Now this is really, talk about some freak coincidence. There's a theory that she was involved in a tuberculosis test. So her name is Elisa Lam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people note that there was a tuberculosis outbreak at the same time on Skid Row, just a few blocks away from the Cecil Hotel. Armchair experts point out that the test for the type of tuberculosis circulating was called the Lam Elisa. How freaking weird is that?
Right.
Spelled the same way. Lam is her last name, and Elisa is her first name. So this test was called the Lam Elisa. It's not linked to her, but it was just a weird fact. So I'm not going to go into the medical term of the medical words of the acronym or the abbreviation of Lam Elisa, but some people thought that it had something to do with that. Some have also said that Lisa was used as a biological weapon to help take out the homeless population, and that she was later killed after someone discovered that she had learned too much. But her autopsy didn't show any signs of tuberculosis, so that seems extremely unlikely.
Can I tell you what I think happened?
Yeah, go for it.
I think based off of like what you described in the elevator, almost like she was using her hands to communicate or something. I have two theories. One is it's not that difficult to play around with video surveillance. And so maybe somebody got into the elevator with her and then scrambled the video surveillance, or was wearing some kind of disguise or something and was communicating with her, because obviously somebody, something happened there. But the other thing I wonder is, what if she was having a mental health crisis and she was basically like, and she took off her own clothes and got into the water tank, you know?
Well, you're a little Miss Know-It-all, but I'm not going to tell you which theory is right. Um, so when the autopsy results for Lisa Lam's case came out, it only served to ignite more questions. The toxicology report confirmed that Lisa had consumed a number of medical drugs, likely to be medication for her bipolar disorder. You read ahead. That's cheating.
No, I did
You're
not.
a cheater.
No, I've been doing this for a year and a half. Don't think for a second that I'm not a genius now.
You always were a genius. Joy is very smart, you guys. But there were no indications of alcohol or illegal substances in her body. Soon after the toxicology report came out, amateur sleuths began poring over any information they could find in hopes of solving the mystery behind the death of Elisa Lam. For example, one summary of Elisa's toxicology report was posted online by a Reddit sleuth with an obvious interest in medicine. The breakdown pointed out that 3 key observations. 1, Elisa took at least 1 antidepressant that day. 2, Elisa had taken her second antidepressant and mood stabilizer recently, but not that day. And 3, Elisa had not taken her antipsychotic recently. These conclusions suggested that Elisa, who had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, may have not been taking her medications properly. You cheated. You cheated.
Not,
Cheater,
I did
cheater.
not. The other thing that I just want to make mention of is, um, there are people who are in the news who have like, ongoing, how do I phrase this? Ongoing feuds sometimes with personalities that are like famous people or with like ex-spouses or spouses who've been diagnosed with different kinds of mental health issues and who do not seek treatment or do not accept treatment or who do not take their medications or who have stopped taking medications. And the fact of the matter is it's very, very dangerous. Like the
Mhm.
medications have to be stepped off of with the help of not only a medical doctor, but also a mental health professional like a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist or somebody who is in that field who can help you because every medication including blood pressure and cholesterol like for example, we know somebody who just told their husband to stop taking their cholesterol medication and 3 months later, guess what? 2 weeks later they had a stroke. So you
Oh,
can't just stop. Yeah,
no, you can't, you
they
guys.
read something online that said that the cholesterol, a statin caused some extenuating health
Oh my
crisis,
God.
and they were told just stop taking it, and they did, and they freaking couldn't get out of bed the next morning because they'd had a stroke, and then they like rolled out onto the. I mean, it's no joke.
Yeah,
Don't
you can't.
don't do this kind of shit without like consulting your doctor.
Yeah. There's a reason that we take it daily, right? The dose is such
Right.
that you have to take it daily. So it's not, you
And
can't just
everybody's
stop
body is
taking it.
different.
Right. Yeah, that's some scary shit.
Mhm.
So it is an important finding to note that given the use of antidepressants to treat bipolar disorder can risk inducing manic side effects if done without caution. Some sleuths have understandably latched onto this detail and suggested it was a likely explanation behind Lisa's strange behavior in the elevator. Say, you were right, na 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 na.
And
Um,
remember, she had been traveling by herself for some time. So she may not have been sleeping regular hours. She may not have been eating regular meals. And she may have been like, her health may have been severely compromised as a result.
well, yeah, and according to that Reddit sleuth who, gathered up all that medical information, she skipped her antipsychotic meds, and we just talked about that. You can't stop. You can't. Um, But even if Elisa had been suffering from mental health issues, how did she end up dead? Furthermore, how did she end up in the hotel's water tank? The autopsy did not show any foul play from the evidence that was processed, but the coroner's office noted that they were unable to do a full examination because they could not examine the blood from Elisa's decomposing body. David and Elisa Lam filed a wrongful death suit against the Cecil Hotel, that's her parents, several months after their daughter's death was uncovered. The Lamb's attorney stated that the hotel had a duty to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to Elisa and other hotel guests. The hotel fought back against the suit, filing a motion to dismiss it. The hotel's lawyer argued that the hotel had no reason to think that someone would be able to get into one of their water tanks. Based on court statements from the hotel's maintenance staff, the hotel's argument is not entirely far-fetched. Santiago Lopez, who was the first to find Lamb's body, described in detail how much effort he had to exert just to find her body. He said that he took the elevator to the 15th floor of the hotel before walking up the staircase to the roof. Then he had to first turn off the rooftop alarm and climb up on the platform where the hotel's 4 water tanks were located. Finally, he had to climb another ladder to get to the top of the main tank. Only after all that did he notice something unusual. I noticed the hatch to the main water tank was open and locked inside, and and looked inside and saw an Asian woman lying face up in the water, approximately 12 inches from the top of the tank, he said. His testimony suggested that it would have been difficult for her to make it to the top of the water tank on her own, at least not without anyone noticing. The hotel's chief engineer, Pedro Tovar, also made it clear that it would be difficult for anyone to access the rooftop where the hotel water tanks were located without triggering the alarms. Only hotel employees would be able to deactivate the alarm properly. If it was triggered, the sound of the alarm would reach the front desk as well as the entire top 2 floors of the hotel. Hotel manager Amy Price's statements in court strongly supported the theory that Elisa had been suffering a manic episode. During Elisa's stay at the Cecil Hotel, Price said that Elisa was originally booked in a hostel-style shared room with others. However, complaints of her odd behavior from her roommates forced Elisa to be moved into a private room by herself. Her own sister, Sarah Lam, noted that Elisa could sometimes become paranoid and believe someone was following her. It's really sad. So the Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Howard Holm ruled that the death of Elisa Lam was unforeseeable because it had happened in an area that guests were not allowed to access, so the lawsuit was dismissed. But there's this whole foreseeable, unforeseeable thing in all these cases I've been listening to lately.
What if the guy who found her was the guy who drug her up there?
Right.
Because he would have known all of the alarms.
Right. I mean, this unforeseeable thing, I don't know. Unforeseeable. So they ruled her death unforeseeable because it happened in an area that guests were not allowed to access. But to me, it's like, but she did access it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I don't know. And also, people don't treat alarms like, remember back in the day when like your car alarm would go off and it would be so embarrassing and everybody would be like, "Oh, dude, your car alarm's going off," and you'd be like mortified. Now, people just like the car alarm. Yeah, and it's just going for like 20 minutes. It's like,
nobody cares. No.
Like, what the hell? And nobody comes out to shut it off, and then finally the car just gets tired.
Right. Car gets tired. But you bring up a really good point, because a lot of the YouTube channels and cases I watch and blah, 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 they go to the businesses to get their security footage and the thing wasn't on. You know, right. or they recorded over it. So, I mean, there's a good...
Or they only have, they'll say, we only have 1 hour of tape available. So every hour it resets and gets recorded over. It's like, oh, that's really good.
That's helpful.
But if you think about it, who's going to have 20 years of video surveillance that you can like go and like dig through?
Yeah. Well, they got to get a bigger cloud. Put it up in the cloud. You don't know. You don't use Apple. Anyway, so...
Yeah, but Google's got some clouds too, girlfriend.
Well, so I guess I don't know. It's all very tricky, but you bring up a really good point that maybe someone didn't set the alarm, you know?
It's all very tricky.
So
it's all very tricky.
Shut up. Okay. Her mysterious demise was not the first to happen at the Cecil Hotel. In fact, the building's sordid past has earned it a reputation as one of the most supposedly haunted properties in Los Angeles. Did you know about this? Did you hear about the Cecil Hotel?
I've never even heard about this fucking hotel. Are you kidding me?
Well, and you also don't watch American Horror Story, huh?
Oh, God, no. Are you kidding? You know what? I have a horror story to tell you, and it was about my vacation to California. So just come back next week, guys.
So just let me talk about the Cecil Hotel, because it's very interesting for people that like, paranormal or just murder, if you like murder. Located in the heart of the city's downtown, a few blocks away from Skid Row. Skid Row is a neighborhood with a large population of homeless people. The Cecil Hotel was built in the 1920s, so you already know it's haunted, Following the onset of the Great Depression a few years later, however, the hotel fell into decline. With its cheap rooms available for daily or monthly stays and proximity to Skid Row, the hotel earned a reputation in later years as a haven for drug addicts, sex workers, serial killers, and down and out people in Los Angeles. I love how they just throw serial killers in the middle of all of this. Like it shouldn't cause any alarm. And in the years since, many untimely deaths have occurred at the hotel. Since opening its doors in 1927, the Cecil Hotel has been plagued by 16 different non natural deaths and unexplained paranormal events. The most famous death associated with the hotel, other than Elisa's, because I know you haven't heard of this, but it was in the true crime world. Elisa Lam's case was highly, highly publicized and highly followed and all of that. So the most famous death, other than hers, was the 1947 murder of actress Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, who was reportedly seen drinking at the hotel bar in the days
Oh,
before her grisly demise. The hotel has also hosted some of the country's most notorious killers. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, lived on the top floor of the hotel during his mon-
oh,
during his monstrous killing spree. You know, I was in LA. I remember living there during this time of the Night Stalker's killing spree and being terrified. Because he would
guys,
come.
Cheryl's like 94.
I just turned 94. I just had a birthday. But seriously, I am old. I'm older than you, but not by much. It it was very scary though, because he was coming in through people's windows. So people,
Whoa,
started locking their windows. But I lived in that area. It was very scary.
that's
So
crazy.
the story goes that after a murder, Ramirez would dump his bloody clothes outside the hotel and return half naked. Back then, the hotel was in such disarray that Ramirez's nude stunt barely raised an eyebrow. That's how,
God.
that's what the clientele was like at the Cecil Hotel. That Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker's naked body, did not raise an eyebrow walking through the
Oh my
lobby.
God. Can
God,
you believe that?
oh my God. 6 years later, another murderous patron moved into the hotel, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger, who earned the nickname Vienna Strangler. So whether it was cursed, haunted, or just plain poorly regulated and managed, the downtown Cecil Hotel got such a bad rap that it created a second section in 2011 called Stay on Main. And with such a macabre history, one would think that the Cecil Hotel would soon be condemned. But actually, in 2017, the building was granted landmark status by the Los Angeles City Council. I found that so odd.
Right.
The hotel was given the distinction because of the building's opening back in the 1920s, which is considered the beginning of the lodging industry in the United States. Meanwhile, the tragic death of Elisa Lam at the hotel has inspired pop culture adaptations like Ryan Murphy's American Horror Story Hotel. I've watched most of the American Horror Stories. Um, so, the Elisa Lam story in the end was the story of a young woman experiencing a mental health crisis. Yes, Joy, Miss Know It All, you had it right. Who never, who never received the help she desperately needed. But the way it unfolded may have been just one exhibit of how the internet can take a tragedy with unusual circumstances and turn it into something it isn't. Because this was like touted as like as a murder and a paranormal story, and
What do
it
you
I
think? Do you think it's paranormal? I think it was a mental health, like a psychotic episode.
no, I do think it was a psychotic episode, because she missed her meds, and there was talk about why did she remove her clothing, and I've heard something about when you're experiencing something like that. Well, I know that people who get lost in the snow and have hypothermia, even though you're out freezing your butt off, you feel hot when
Right.
are having, yeah, so you take off your clothes, so it's unusual. But if she's experiencing mental health breakdown, she could be thinking anything that the reason she took off her clothes. It is okay, I can make an excuse for the alarms not being set, but when you think about what it took to get there, um, up to that tank, and I feel like the top suit would be super heavy. Um, it's questionable to me that she got up there, even
She
if
could have
the
been running
alarm.
away from somebody, or
That's what people thought.
remember her sister said that sometimes she would get paranoid. So maybe in her psychotic like episode, she thought she was being pursued, and so she ran up there.
That was one of the other theories, which that could be too, but that's also chalked up to her mental health issue, right? Um, I I think that she did have a mental health crisis because she had been skipping her meds. I also am a believer, though, in bad juju, and that hotel having housed serial killers, there's just a bad energy. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that that did not help. I don't think that helped at all. As I do think there's a little bit of paranormal, just in the sense that uh, I, you guys, Joy took me to this hotel in Santa Maria,
Oh yeah, that place was so cool.
and no, it wasn't, you guys. I could not go to the bathroom in our room without being freaked out. And I told Joy, do not
Cheryl,
leave
it
me
was
in this
so
room.
cool.
If you have ever seen The Shining, you have not seen The Shining, huh? If
No.
for those of you
Why
that have
would I
seen,
see that?
okay, for
Yikes.
those of you that have seen The Shining, this hotel, which was not just really small, it was not as big as The Shining, where Jack Nicholson was, but it had the same feel. And I thought the place was haunted. And we asked, remember, we stopped somebody in the hallway and we asked if the place was haunted or if they ever had any incidences. And they did say that sometimes people heard the piano playing in the bar area. Do you
Oh,
remember
I
that?
don't remember that.
Yeah, I
And then I
remember.
remember when we went to bed, was it one bed or two beds? I think it was two beds.
No, it
And I
was two
remember
beds.
I fell asleep right away. And the next morning, you said you didn't sleep very well. And I was
No,
like,
and I,
I had the best sleep of my life. I was like,
oh
this
my
place
God.
is great.
No, the
And you were
bathroom
just like, you wouldn't
creeped
walk
me
down the
out.
hallway by yourself because you
No,
said it's
and I
like the
told you,
hallway in The Shining. And I was like,
I
I thank God I've never seen that movie.
I probably should stop watching this shit. But
Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't allow you to go out. I told you, do not leave me in this room by myself. Anyway, so I believe in that stuff,
it
and
was
I
a little
believe,
small.
yeah. But there was something about the bath, and it wasn't, the bathroom didn't. It looked like a normal bathroom, but something gave me the creeps.
It's because it smelled like, remember how old hotels all smell like old cigarette smoke?
It did, okay,
And
I forgot about that. It did smell like
yeah, and
smoke.
it smelled because
I
like that
forgot
was
about
at
that.
least okay. So let me just think back. That was at least what, 16, 17 years ago. My kids were little. And I will say, so at least 16 years ago, 15, 16 years ago, that back then they would say when you would get a hotel room, they say smoking or non-smoking. Well, I
Yeah,
got
you're right.
news for you. If you're still like, if your room is non-smoking and there's a hotel room that is smoking, everyone in that hotel room, everyone in that hotel is going to smell like they're smoking because that shit sticks to the walls and the bedding and the
Oh
floor
God,
and the carpet and the paint. So
you know what's
it reeked.
you remember when we had restaurants? Remember when there was a smoking section everywhere,
Oh,
including
God.
restaurants?
Yeah.
Like there was an invisible wall where the smoke was supposed to stop. I mean, no, it would just waft into the other room.
Guys,
Anyway,
here's what I have to say about this. And new like this may come as a shocker to some of our listeners, but I'm an ex-smoker, okay? It's 2024. If you are voluntarily smoking cigarettes on a regular basis, buying cigarettes, you are about as dumb as a pile of rocks
Oh,
because
we don't want to
everybody
call our
knows
listeners
that
dumb.
what?
We don't
Everybody
want to
knows
call
that
our
shit's
listeners
going to
dumb.
kill you. And it's only by the grace of I don't know who, maybe the 5,000 Hindu gods, that I'm still here because I should never have smoked in the first place. So if you're listening to this and you're smoking, stop. All right?
Yeah, because as a cautionary tale, she has felt, right? You do have some, you feel like
I
you have
do
health issues
have
from it.
some asthma related breathing problems when allergy season rolls around in the spring and the fall. And
And
it's
you,
directly related to my smoking.
yeah, yeah, it's not a
So
good
there.
habit. But they're not dumb. They're not dumb. Why you take my back?
Well, you might think they're not dumb, but it says on the box, smoking will kill your ass dead. So if you can't read that and take the warning, then you're maybe either you don't know how to read or you dumb. All right, you heard it here
Oh,
first.
Lord. Gosh. Well, anyway, so
Cheryl,
that's the story. You know what? The part
that's a
that trips me
crazy
out
story.
is the Lam Elisa test. I just found that so freaking weird.
That's pretty
What?
weird.
I mean, her name's Elisa Lam. Anyway, but will you go watch the video, please? Now
No,
that you know,
I
no,
told
there's,
you
but
I'm
you
not
know,
gonna watch it.
listen, you know, there's nothing paranormal now. You figured it out. You figured
What?
out that it was a mental health crisis, so you can watch it without being scared.
Not gonna do it.
You can't make me.
Here's the thing. I have only so much time left to watch video clips. I'm not going to be here indefinitely, folks. Here's another news flash. I get to choose what I spend those remaining days on this planet doing, and it's not watching that. It's going
It's
to be
4 minutes. It's
watching
4
mindless,
minutes.
watching 911 calls on TikTok, because now my whole TikTok is consumed with murder cases, 911 calls, and child abductions thanks to you. So depressing. Fiona actually taught me how to go into each TikTok video and say not interested because I'm so disturbed by the quality of my algorithm now. It's like I've been taken over by like a body snatcher. Anyway, I'm not watching it, but Cheryl, this was a crazy, crazy thing, and so sad for her family and for her.
It really is.
And it's also sad that they released. I feel like they shouldn't release those surveillance camera videos, especially in cases where people, you know what I mean? Like if they're trying to find like her killer or whatever, or if it's like clearly a case of like, you know, who done it. But in this case, since she had a mental health crisis, I feel like they should not release that stuff because that's very hard to like, it's forever out there. It's not like the guy whose junk got caught on the wire. That guy could just be like swaggering around France going, I got some big junk. And like feeling all like manly and shit. But instead, like the family has to always know that's out there.
It's
like
true.
The internet is endless.
That's true. That's very hurtful for the family.
Yeah.
That people are looking at it as entertainment and, you know, trying to figure out all this stuff. And it's their daughter, their sister.
Right?
Yeah. That
You
is
know,
very
Cheryl, it's a really good thing that I'm part of this podcast because not only did I solve that crime, you know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we're out of time.
That is a crime. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch managed by Cheryl Callan. Podcast editing, advertising, and social media managed by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Boljezic. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify, audible.com, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.